There are no historical records, both Roman and Greek, that contradict this event, and even the Hebrew accounts of the time do not present an opposing version of this occurrence. Faced with this gap, we turn to the book of Corinthians, where we find a true and meaningful account. The reliability of the biblical Gospels and the actual existence of Jesus are fundamental questions. In my quest to understand these aspects, I conducted thorough research on the historical evidence related to the life, ministry, death, and resurrection of Jesus. This effort not only benefits Christians seeking to deepen their knowledge, but also provides an enlightening perspective for non-Christians wishing to better understand what concrete historical research reveals about this first-century Palestinian Jew. In creating this video, I prioritized the use of reliable sources, relying on a set of ancient documents. These documents have been meticulously examined and studied by professionals and historians, ensuring their credibility. Additionally, I sought support from accounts of renowned professors from major universities, whose analyses corroborate the existence of Jesus and, crucially, support the assertion of his resurrection. According to these sources, the resurrection emerges as the crucial element that allowed a group of 500 people and the 12 apostles to continue to follow Christ devoutly. This book was written in Ephesus, presumably in 57 AD, when Paul outlined this letter. Thus, we can dismiss any information from Gnostic archives, written 200 to 250 years later, by individuals who did not witness the events of that time. Similarly, it is wise to reject accounts concerning the Merovingians and the alleged descent of Jesus. The scriptures address these 500 witnesses, stating, "He was buried, and he was raised from the dead on the third day, just as the scripture said. He was seen by Peter and then by the 12. After that, he was seen by more than 500 of his followers at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have died." 1 Corinthians 15 verses 4 to 6. Decades after these events, some of the mentioned 500 were still alive and shared their testimonies about what happened. They were 500 believers gathered in the same place. The willingness to fight for a cause, a leader, or a belief is naturally influenced by the credibility of the events associated with it. In the case at hand, the persistence of narratives about Jesus' resurrection is highlighted by the fact that, decades after the events, many of those who witnessed the occurrences were still alive to corroborate these stories. However, from the 18th century to the present day, new ideas have emerged to question the authenticity of the Gospels. In the contemporary era, influenced by modern culture and even within some Christian groups, it is argued that the accounts are merely invented stories. This skepticism, however, faces the challenge of confronting the persistent testimony of eyewitnesses and the cohesion of narratives that have endured over the centuries. Both the 12 apostles and the 500 were crucial eyewitnesses, a fact of utmost importance in corroborating the existence and resurrection of Jesus the Christ. Some accounts were directly recorded by those who were with Jesus, while others, like those of Luke and Mark, were based on eyewitness accounts. In fact, these books constitute true biographies of Jesus' life. The prologue of the Gospel, according to Luke in chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, emphasizes the effort to arrange the events fulfilled among them, based on the reports transmitted by those who witnessed these events from the beginning and served as ministers of the Word. The care and meticulous research carried out by Luke are evident in this context. In chapter 1, verse 3, Luke explicitly states his commitment to detail these events for Theophilus, mentioning the order given and his own thorough investigation of the facts from the beginning. This testimony reinforces the seriousness with which biblical writers approach the recording of events related to the life of Jesus. Luke's research involved detailed interviews with some of the 500 eyewitnesses who were still alive, people who saw Jesus Christ as mentioned by Paul. The text highlights the perceived convenience by Luke in sharing this information with Theophilus, the result of a thorough investigation into the events that occurred from the beginning. It is worth noting that, at the time, the transmission of information mainly occurred orally, a natural practice among various peoples, including the Nordic and Greek cultures. The absence of newspapers or similar technologies reinforces the dependence on this method to report and preserve the events of that time. I conducted an in-depth study on oral cultures, and the results obtained are intriguing. In primary oral cultures, narrative plays a crucial role, as it has the ability to encapsulate a wealth of information in more complex forms, enduring over time due to repetition. Maxims, riddles, proverbs, and other brief elements also withstand the test of time in this context. In contrast, in cultures of writing or printing, the text serves as a physical link between its contents, facilitating the organized and integral retrieval of any idea. In primary oral cultures, where the absence of text is evident, narrative plays a fundamental role in connecting thought more cohesively and enduringly than other genres. Regarding the authenticity of the accounts about Jesus, the absence of contradictions is notable. Moreover, documents from other nations corroborate the existence of Jesus. The Jewish historian Josephus, the Roman Tacitus, and the political writer Suetonius offer testimonies about his existence. Faced with these facts, the veracity of this event is indisputable. A concrete fact securely deduced is the existence of a Christian community in Rome during the reign of Emperor Nero, 54 to 68 after Christ, whose persecutions of Christians prompted Tacitus to record the mentioned commentary. The theory that Jesus' body was stolen, claiming that he was not truly dead, faces significant challenges. The Roman guards assigned to the tomb were highly trained for this specific mission. Sleeping on duty was punishable by desertion, and capital punishment was the consequence. These guards, who watched over the tomb for 24 hours, were highly skilled professionals. The idea that ordinary individuals could overcome these guards, move a heavy stone, steal the body, and escape without being pursued by the ruthless Roman guard seems highly improbable. Documentaries, such as those presented on the Discovery Channel, emphasize that the Roman legion was the world's most efficient army for over 1,000 years, adding an additional layer of improbability to this theory. The transformation of the disciples after the crucifixion is remarkable. From men without hope and frightened, as reported in Luke 24:21 and John 20:19, they became confident and courageous witnesses of the resurrection, as evidenced in Acts 2:24, Acts 3:15, and Acts 4:2. Even Paul, formerly a persecutor of Christians, surprisingly risked his life for the gospel, as mentioned in Acts 9:24-25. His explanation for this radical change was the encounter with the risen Jesus, who authorized him to lead the mission among the Gentiles, as described in Acts 26:15-18. When Jesus was crucified and died, the apostles and disciples returned to their normal lives, completely forgetting all the teachings and miracles. Then something changed dramatically to the point where they risked their own lives. Furthermore, it is observed that within a short period, hundreds of Christians existed from Palestine to Rome. This rapid spread of Christianity is unique for the time, without parallels in other religions or beliefs. Even the accounts of the 500 witnesses of Jesus' resurrection mentioned in the Bible do not fully explain this accelerated expansion. The phenomenon seems to go beyond a simple narrative and points to something exceptionally significant in the spread of the Christian faith. With the expansion of Roman roads, travel became more accessible than ever. The Greek language was widely spoken throughout the empire, while the powerful Roman army ensured peace. This scenario facilitated the migration of numerous artisans to major cities, such as Rome, Corinth, Athens, and Alexandria, before heading to new destinations. Christianity found in this environment fertile ground to thrive, taking advantage of the openness to religiosity. When Jesus entered the synagogue and read Isaiah 61:1, he declared to the present teachers of the law that the prophecy had been fulfilled on that day, proclaiming himself as the servant described in the prophetic scripture. The likelihood of surviving crucifixion, considered the most severe form of punishment at the time, was virtually non-existent. In searching historical records, I found no accounts of survivors of this Roman practice. Crucifixion, always preceded by flogging, involved aggravations such as severe inflammation, traumatic fever, contorted body position, and unbearable thirst. The wounds resulted in excruciating agony. As Dosker stated, the victim of crucifixion literally died 1,000 deaths. Moreover, the Romans were known for their expertise in execution methods and took pride in it. The chances of survival after crucifixion were virtually nil, considering the brutality and the internal exposure of organs such as arteries, veins, and intestines even before crucifixion. Upon being fixed to the cross, the person lost a considerable amount of blood, exacerbated in Jesus' case as a Roman soldier pierced him with a spear. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. John 19:34. Biblical accounts detail the public flogging, crucifixion, and burial of Jesus. One of the miracles that Jesus promised and performed was the resurrection of the dead, confirmed by more than 500 eyewitnesses. Furthermore, reliable research has revealed that Joseph of Arimathea, a member of the Jewish Sanhedrin, sought permission from Pilate to bury Jesus' body in a tomb. Given Joseph's prominence, the tomb was in a publicly known location, historically corroborating these accounts. Other members of the Sanhedrin, Eleazar and Gamaliel, were also favorable to Jesus. Faith in Jesus became unshakable, withstanding persecutions, imprisonments, and martyrdoms initiated by Nero. The radical transformation of Christ's followers, impacted by this truth, led to the proclamation of the good news by hundreds of individuals. Without this testimony, we would hardly discuss this matter today. Jesus' message has reverberated through the centuries, influencing generations and shaping history. The impact of the Christian faith not only withstood adversities, but also expanded remarkably. The courage of Christ's followers in the face of persecution, initiated with Nero and persisting through the ages, is a compelling testimony to the conviction they carried. Faith in Jesus is not confined to a historical narrative. It is a living and dynamic phenomenon that transcends cultures and generations. The message of Jesus' resurrection not only provided hope in the face of death, but also inspired altruistic actions, charity, and a lasting commitment to the principles taught by Christ. As we reflect on the trajectory of the Christian faith from the times of the Roman Empire to the present day, we can observe a constant pursuit of truth and a desire to share the redeeming love that Jesus personified. The legacy of these historical events goes beyond validating the existence of Jesus, but also extends to the profound transformation his message brought to the lives of those who chose to follow him. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29.